Want help to grow your business? Download BRiN, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit BRiN.ai or search the App Store today.
Hi, my name's Natasha Hawker, founder and director of Employee Matters, an employee relations company, and I'm an employee expert. I specialise in helping companies create exceptional business performance through their employees. Think employment contracts, policies, recruitment, and terminations. I've been working in this field consistently for 23 years, both nationally and internationally, including 12 years at Accenture, one of the top global management consulting firms. I'm routinely featured in the Sydney Morning Herald and the Huffington Post, and I'm a regular writer for Flying Solo and Her Business. I have been nominated for Telstra Businesswoman of the Year and Business of the Year, and in my career to date, I have hired, managed, and fired over 15,500 employees. I've also written a book called From Hire to Fire and Everything in Between to help business owners navigate all of their employee matters. Now, I believe that running a business is exceptionally tough, and it's my passion and drive to help small business owners lose their employee headaches and grow their businesses faster than ever before through their employees. Today, we're going to be talking about behaviours. What behaviours do you want in your organisation, and how can behaviours help you grow your business faster than ever before, more peacefully, more effectively, and more quickly? So without further ado, let's get on and learn how we can use behaviours to our advantage in the workplace. When I started my business, I realised I needed to come up with a methodology or a framework to talk to our clients about how we can help them grow their businesses faster than ever before through their employees. So let's quickly run through that. The first step is assess. This is working out whether you are legally compliant with your obligations, and they are country specific. The second one is hire. So how do you hire the right type of employees and the best employees you can afford? The next step is under manage. So how do you manage your team on a daily basis, including how do you grow your team and also how do you deal with performance management issues? The fourth step here is policy. This is working out what policies that you have in place and legally need to have in place to run your business effectively. Step 5 is well-being. This refers to workplace health and safety. How do you provide a safe place of work and meet your legal obligations? Step 6 is around training. So training talks to how do you optimize the performance of your employees through training them and helping them grow in their roles. Step 7 is engagement. This is one of my favorite steps. How do you build a highly engaged workforce? And then step 8 is measurement. So how do you put some hard numbers around what you're actually doing? How do you measure your employee costs? And finally, step 9 is exit. How do you exit both your non-performing employees when you want to push them out of the organisation and exit well the people who choose to leave you so that maybe they might want to come back and work for you in the future? Today, we're going to be focused around the hire and the manage steps of the life cycle as we talk about what are the behaviours you want to have in your organisation. So let's get into why are behaviours important. The crux of the matter is that behaviours actually improve the performance of the individual doing the role, but overall the business performance when you have the right behaviours working in the organisation. Now, there are going to be a diversity of skills in your organisation and therefore a diversity of behaviours that you're actually looking for when you are recruiting into your organisation. The next point I want you to know is that culture is linked very heavily to behaviours, and businesses that have great cultures are more successful. It's been proven time and time again. So great culture equals success. You will also have a more cohesive team when you have behaviours and you're hiring for behaviours. That's because you're very aware of what behaviours you want in your organisation, and also you've hired those in, and those behaviours tend to mean that the people are conducting themselves in a way that makes for less conflict in the workplace. And the last one here is behaviours are important to engagement. Engagement is the measure of discretionary effort. So if you have the right behaviours, then you should be building an entirely engaged workforce. So what is behavior? Behavior, by definition, is the way in which one acts or conducts themselves, especially towards others. It could also be described as the response of an individual to a group in action, in response to the environment or the person or a stimulus. And finally, the point I want to take you to here is past behavior indicates future performance. And we're going to talk much more about that further on in the presentation, but it's a really important one to remember. So what behaviours do you need in your workforce to maximize your productivity? I think it's really important to note that we are working in a rapidly changing environment. We are in an unprecedented time of change. Change is happening more quickly to us, and if we're not able to adapt to that change, we're going to struggle. I think the other thing that it's important to note is that roles and behaviours are going to be specific to that role. So what behaviours you require in one role may not be what you're looking for in another position. So the two behaviours I'd like you to take away that I think every organisation needs in this day and age is adaptable. This is your ability to adapt to change. I used to work, as I said, for a major consulting firm, professional services firm, and I used to do hundreds of interviews over the year. And when I was interviewing people, I always used to say, the only constant here is change. If you're not comfortable with an environment that is rapidly changing, this is not the place for you. And the other one is around innovation. You have to have the ability within your team to see challenges as an opportunity, to be resilient, and therefore look to innovate so that you can stay ahead of the competition. So what are the best behaviours that you want to have in your organisation? I've listed a few here, but let's talk about a couple specifically. I absolutely think you need people who see problems as opportunities to create great things. So they need to want to have challenges. The other one here is public speaking. I'm standing here talking to a camera now. In business these days, you need to have people in your organisations that are comfortable with public speaking. When you think about the rise of social media, of video, of TV, of podcasts, being able to present is incredibly important. They need to have great interpersonal skills. When you've got high levels of interpersonal skills, you have a much greater capacity to get stuff done. It's just easier for you than it is for people who have low interpersonal skills. And the last one I wanted to touch on here is enforcing. This is where you are able to enforce rules or behaviours in a workplace. Now, this is one that's specific for certain sorts of organisations. If you think about a jail prison guard, they need to have a strong preference towards enforcing behaviours because they need to keep to stringent rules and behaviours. So what traits do you think might be important for a receptionist? They have to have a love of clerical, a love of admin. They need to be diplomatic. Imagine if they're dealing with grumpy clients all day and they're responding back to them in a grumpy way. They need to enjoy dealing with the public. They need to have that helpful approach, and they need to be able to deal with repetition. Imagine saying 100 times a day, "Hi, my name is so-and-so. Welcome to Employee Matters. How can I help you?" 100 times a day. They need to be able to deal with being in a role that does require repetition. And they need to be able to cope with stress well. Imagine if your reception is receiving 50, 60 inbound calls a day. There's a clash with the meeting rooms and they're needing to organise that. And they've got 6 people waiting in reception for meetings with various people. They need to be able to deal with that stress level. What traits don't you want to have for a receptionist? What would be disastrous? Here are a couple. Fast but imprecise. What I mean by this is they can work at pace, but they're imprecise in the way they do that. If we talk about the receptionist, they can take the volume of calls, but they're pointing them to the wrong people, so they're misdirecting those calls. They need to be able to have a tolerance of bluntness. What I mean by this is if they're dealing with a grumpy or obnoxious or angry client that comes to reception, they can't react back in that way. And the other thing that they need to do is have a high level of interpersonal skills. It's one of my absolute bugbears when you go into an organisation. That receptionist is the face of the business, and they need to greet you with a smile. They need to make you feel warm. They need to make you feel welcome in the organisation. So that's really, really important. So how do you actually hire for those behaviours? How do you attract them to your organisation? Well, the first thing you need to do
To continue enjoying this presentation, download BRiN, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit BRiN.ai or search the App Store today.